And welcome to this week's Team Kentucky Update. We start this week the way we get to start most every week, with good news about our booming economy. The Office of State Budget Director has announced today that Kentucky's general fund receipts for July, this being the first month of fiscal year 2024, totaled more than $1.1 billion, a 7.1% increase compared to July 2022 receipts. This is our 11th consecutive month with over $1 billion plus in general fund receipts. Truly booming economy. That's the only way receipts of that magnitude are generated. We're setting state revenue records every month, which has given us room to provide tax cuts to our families. These numbers show substantial growth in July compared to last year, even though this year's contains the 10% reduction in individual income tax rate. In other words, even though we were able to cut taxes, something that I signed into law, we still saw our revenue numbers increase. This report also shows that there were more jobs in Kentucky combined with higher wages and salaries. We are fiscally responsible and we are keeping our economy booming. We're going to keep working to make sure prosperity reaches every corner of the Commonwealth. Economic momentum we're seeing across the Commonwealth shows no sign of slowing. And we again have several new and important things to talk about this week. On Tuesday, I congratulated Nucor Corporation on its new power purchase agreement with NextEra Energy Resources, LLC. Nucor will receive 250 megawatts of renewable energy from Seabreeze Solar, LLC, a subsidiary of NextEra Energy Resources in Henderson County. Seabreeze Solar is an innovative two-phase project in Henderson County that has a capacity of up to 400 megawatts of American-produced solar energy. The steel for the first phase of Seabreeze Solar will be sourced from Nucor Steel Gallatin in Ghent, Kentucky, and will be used for the racking system that supports the project's solar panels. So even the construction of this Kentucky solar field will be in part done here in Kentucky, with the steel being made here in Kentucky. Steel from the facility will also be used for another solar project to be built and operated by Green River Solar, a subsidiary of Next Energy Resources in Meade and Breckinridge counties. The Green River Solar project will generate up to 200 megawatts of electricity. Over its 30-year lifespan, the first phase of Seabreeze Solar will contribute approximately $20 million in additional tax revenue to Henderson County, which can be used for roads and schools and other public services. Construction is set to begin this fall, and the project's expected to start commercial operation in December 2025. Nucor's success in Kentucky has grown significantly in recent years, with new investments and jobs helping to expand the reach of its steel projects. Whether it's electric vehicles or cutting-edge metals manufacturing, Kentucky is emerging as a national leader in creating the jobs of the future. I look forward to Nucor's continued success here, and I'm happy to welcome NextEra Energy Resources to the Commonwealth for what we hope will be a long and prosperous relationship. Yesterday, I also had the opportunity to join Blue Oval SK executives to tour Blue Oval SK's battery park in Glendale. The second battery plant has started to take shape, and hiring's begun for the 5,000 jobs being created in these two plants. Folks, once constructed, these will be the two largest battery plants on planet Earth, and they're some of the largest manufacturing facilities. Certainly, I believe even the first one is the largest manufacturing facility, single construction ever in Kentucky. I visited the park back in December when Ford and SK On celebrated construction progress, a project that is a $5.8 billion project and will produce advanced batteries for future Ford and Lincoln electric vehicles. Construction is on schedule. That's right. We're building the two biggest battery plants on planet Earth, something that's never been done before, and we are on schedule. The two massive manufacturing facilities will be capable of collectively producing more than 80 gigawatt hours annually. When completed, the two battery plants at the site will each measure approximately 4 million square feet. It's wonderful to watch the progress being made here. Significant progress has been made, including moving 6.8 million cubic yards of earth, placing 257,000 cubic yards of concrete, erecting 44,000 tons of steel, equal to the weight of nearly 200 statues of liberty, installed 2.8 million square feet of roofing, enough to cover 48 football fields, and installed 535,000 square feet of exterior siding. We are thankful to everyone at Blue Oval SK and the nearly 2,600 construction workers currently on site. We thank Ford and we thank SK for believing in us. This is a game-changing, state-changing project, and it is on schedule. Also, I wanted to highlight our continued investment in workforce training incentives. One of Kentucky's greatest strengths is our talented, skilled workforce. Earlier today, I was pleased to announce nearly $2 million in funds and credits are being made available through the Bluegrass State Skills Corporation. The funding will provide nearly 7,000 Kentucky workers with the training they need to succeed. I previously announced over $10 million in funding for 155 applications throughout the state to train nearly 35,000 workers for our last fiscal year. The latest round of funding will support 1,000 trainees at the Bowling Green Metal Forming, LLC, 820 for Louisville Seating in Shepherdsville, over 620 trainees at the Lake Cumberland Regional Hospital in Somerset, 450 trainees at the Clark Regional Medical Center in Winchester, 130 trainees at the Bourbon Community Hospital in Paris, 250 trainees at James Marine Inc. in Paducah, 200 trainees at Dr. Schneider Automotive System in Russell Springs, and 200 trainees at Waystar Inc. in Louisville. Staying competitive and building on our historic economic momentum takes investment. Takes investment in workforce training, and that's exactly what this program does. Finally, I was in Lexington on Tuesday to enjoy some delicious Crank and Boom ice cream and celebrate an economic milestone for Kentucky tourism. This week, I was thrilled to share great news from the recent tourism economics study. 2022 was the best year in Kentucky's history for tourism's economic impact and jobs. More than $12.9 billion was generated in economic impact and 91,668 jobs. Even better, all these visitors to our local communities supported our businesses and attractions. More than $8.9 billion was spent last year by visitors. That is really great news for our families because more than $937 million in state and local taxes were generated, and that equals a tax savings of $536 for every single Kentucky household. Fayette County, which we were in, had a big year. They broke the billion-dollar mark with $1.5 billion in total tourism economic impact, generating more than 11,000 jobs. A couple other highlights. Boyd County, $155 million in economic impact, more than 1,100 jobs. Georgetown and Scott County, $171 million in economic impact, more than 1,200 jobs. Murray and Callaway County, more than $82.5 million in economic impact, more than 660 jobs. Henderson, $85.8 million in economic impact, 575 jobs. And combined, Boone, Campbell, Kenton counties in northern Kentucky, $1.9 billion in economic impact, more than 12,000 jobs. Another win for Kentucky, another record shattered. It is an exciting time. Just yesterday, I released my public safety budget proposal for the upcoming biennium, which includes another raise for Kentucky State Troopers, another increase in the Kentucky Law Enforcement Foundation Program Fund Training Stipend that encourages all POP certified law enforcement to get some of the best training in the country. I announced additional steps in increasing officer safety across the Commonwealth, including a $20 million fund that will provide grants so that every local law enforcement entity can have the very best body armor to protect them in the worst of times. Today, I want to provide an update on school safety as Kentucky families begin a new school year. As governor, but more importantly as a dad, I know this is one of the top issues on parents' minds right now. That's why last year I signed legislation that required all of Kentucky's public schools to have an assigned full-time school resource officer. We built on that measure this year by signing new legislation that provides consistency of expectations for SROs when employed in private or parochial schools, as well as public schools. Listen, we want all our schools to be safe for our children. Soon, our Office of the State School Security Marshal will publish its annual report. Today, I'm providing a preview of some of the report's findings. It'll show that 99% of schools are in compliance with statutorily mandated access control requirements. And since the passage of the School Safety and Resiliency Act in 2019, the number of full-time school resource officers has increased 66%. Currently, there are 685 school resource officers employed by Kentucky schools. That's the most in state history. Just since last year, the number of schools with an assigned full-time SRO has increased 33%. With us today is State School Security Marshal Ben Wilcox. Marshal Wilcox and his team work every day to try to make our schools as safe as they possibly can be. Marshal Wilcox, if you join us to say a few words. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Governor Beshear, for supporting the Office of the State School Security Marshal and the work that we do. I really like to start by saying how proud I am of Kentucky schools and staff at Kentucky schools. We have 15 compliance officers that go around the state and make sure that schools are following the mandates. And it's not a compliance issue now for schools. It's a commitment, and schools are making a commitment to school safety. Our compliance officers do risk assessments on over 1,327 schools in the state of Kentucky. We're not only compliance officers, but we also are resources for our schools. We want to have 100% compliance, but we want to work with our schools to get to that 100% compliance because we have to have that 100% compliance. We work directly with the Kentucky Center for School Safety if they have questions, and work with them as much as possible to get them where they need to be. As the governor stated, we are at 99% compliance with access control mandates. But the School Safety and Resiliency Act goes way beyond that. It goes a comprehensive approach to school safety on mental health, threat assessment teams, suicide prevention, and having a trusted adult for all students. As you know, school resource officers can be that trusted adult. So it's very important for us to have our school resource officers in our schools, there for be protectors, but also for being that trusted adult. Again, my report will be coming out before September 1st. We'll be presenting that to the Kentucky Center for School Safety for release. Kentucky is a leader in school safety. I travel the country talking about what we do here in the state, and there's a lot of states out there that are chasing us and asking us what we're doing and how we're doing it. It's very important to me to get that out, that we are a leader in school safety. But going back on that is that we have had many tragedies around our state just recently. We've had tragedies in our state, and we have to stay resilient on the compliance and also school safety. And that includes making sure that if we see something, we say something. We have a stop line here in the state of Kentucky, a stop tip line here in the state of Kentucky, run by our Homeland Security. And that's for folks, if you see something out there that you think is dangerous in your school, if you see a kid that needs help, you use that tip line and you get that help to them, and we will help do that. Again, thank you, Governor, for your support of our office. And I'd also like to thank all the SROs and law enforcement working today and every day to protect our students. Thank you.
Thank you to Marshal Wilcox, but most importantly, like he said, thank you to all the SROs that are out there. You protect my kids and every other one of our children in one of our public schools, our private schools, or our parochial schools. You were there in case the worst of the worst is to happen, and that's why we need you to be the best of the best. Let's change topics and talk about sports betting. It is 28 days from the beginning of sports betting here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Retail locations can open September 7th, and mobile applications start on September 28th. Today, I have an update from the Horse Racing Commission on who has already filed to seek a license in Kentucky. The commission thus far has received applications from 7 of the state's licensed racetracks. They include Churchill Downs in Louisville, Cumberland Run, coming soon to Corbin, Ellis Park in Henderson, Oak Grove Gaming and Racing in Oak Grove, Red Mile in Lexington, Sandy's Gaming and Racing coming soon to Ashland, and Turfway Park in Florence. Racetracks licensed for sports wagering may open retail sports wagering facilities at their satellite locations. And the service providers who provided for a license for mobile applications are Bet365, BetMGM, Caesars, Circa, DraftKings, FanDuel, and Penn Sports Interactive. Applications are being viewed by KHRC staff and will be voted on at a meeting of the full commission on August the 22nd. We do expect more applications to come in, but 28 days until people can make that first bet, enjoy that sports entertainment. All right, let's do an update on the Mountain Parkway. Listen, the Mountain Parkway was a promise made decades ago by Governor Burt Combs, and we are going to complete his vision. With the announcement that we made on Monday, now every part of the four-laning of the Mountain Parkway is either completed, under construction, or under contract. It is a very exciting time, especially those in Eastern Kentucky that live upon its path and the type of prosperity and opportunity that it is going to bring. So on Monday, I visited with local officials in Floyd County to share some really exciting news. Just last year, we had announced that the final 13 miles from Salyersville to Prestonsburg was going to follow a cross-country route. That was going to create a divided highway that will be much safer, will allow for higher speeds, will be an interstate type feel, and will keep the current section of the Mountain Parkway that connects those two areas open during that construction. So on Monday, I was happy to announce that Bizak Construction was selected as the lead design build contractor for that final 13-mile cross-country route. Bizak is based in the Commonwealth. Most of its operations are in Eastern Kentucky. They have more than 60 years of experience working on major transportation projects in the mountain terrain of Eastern Kentucky. They employ Eastern Kentuckians. What that means is this massive project and the dollars that go into it are going to stay in the region that it's helping. They are right now the lead contractor on the 11-mile Wolfe County segment, which broke ground last year. And they were the lead on the Magoffin County Central segment, which was completed in 2018. Bizak has put together an experienced team. They include Palmer Engineering, located in Winchester, right at the start of the Parkway, Hayden Bridge, Bush and Burchett, S&ME Inc., the J. Davis Law Firm, and Civil Design, LLC. Once completed, the Mountain Parkway will run 90 miles between Winchester and US 23 just west of Prestonsburg. Kentuckians then will have a 4-lane highway for over 400 continuous miles from Paducah to Pikeville. Completing the Mountain Parkway has been a dream for years. I'm proud to report we're getting the job done. It is an exciting time for infrastructure and major infrastructure in Kentucky. Right now, 3 projects that people said were impossible: 4-laning the Mountain Parkway, building the Brent Spence Companion Bridge, and pushing forward I-69. We're doing them all. We're doing them all at the same time. So now a quick update on the Brent Spence Bridge Corridor project. 2 weeks ago in Covington, I stood with Ohio Governor Mike DeWine to announce the 2 states had selected our design build team of Walsh Kokosing for this historic project. It's going to bring jobs. It's going to bring opportunity. It's going to transform travel in the region. We're getting a project done that's been dreamed about for decades, and we're getting it done without tolls. The centerpiece of this project will be the construction of a new bridge as a companion to the Brent Spence Bridge. The new bridge will carry interstate traffic, while the Brent Spence Bridge will be reserved for local traffic. The result will be greater safety and greater efficiency. With a project of this magnitude, there are going to be many updates and details, and especially with the design build, different initial suggested dates that are going to change over time, right? As we design, we hope that we can create efficiencies that sometimes will speed them up. Sometimes other dates that we initially believe things will be completed may take a little bit longer. What I can tell you today is that the new bridge will be completed in 2029, and the entire corridor will be completed the following year in 2030. We believe the overall project is on track. Now, we do believe that some of the initial dates for completion of the environmental surveys are going to take a little bit longer. We thought initially they might take a lot longer, but working with the federal government and them knowing how important this project is, we have reduced the extra time that we believe is needed. Now, with that, the project overall timeline has not changed. So as we go through what is one of the most massive infrastructure projects in our history, just know within the overall timeline, some things will move up, some things will move back. What's important is that we focus on the overall timeline, which I currently believe is still on track. So there's a lot of excitement and a lot of anticipation about this project. And so our Bi-State project team is hosting 2 public open houses later this month, one in Covington and one in Cincinnati. Anyone who's interested can come by. You can browse exhibits, review project information, and talk one-on-one with members of the project team. You can also provide comments. Each open house will last 3 hours. People can come and go at their convenience. The first open house will be Wednesday, August 23rd from 4 to 7 at the Radisson Hotel in Covington. The second open house will be the following day, Thursday, August 24th from 4 to 7 at the Longworth Hotel in Cincinnati. It is a great way to help track the progress of this massive project. A very quick Eastern Kentucky flooding update. Like the tornadoes in Western Kentucky, we'll be condensing some of this information as we move forward. Travel trailers. Right now, 71 households sheltered in trailers, 74 total trailers occupied. We're down to 185 individuals in travel trailers when it was over 1,000 at one point. People are finding more long-term housing, and that is a good thing. FEMA has approved $5.6 million for debris removal in Mayfield. That goes back to the tornadoes. Also $1.2 million to help Floyd County homeowners move to higher ground. Now, an update from the Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund. Following the deadly flooding, I recommended the appropriation of state funding into the Safe Fund and called the General Assembly into a special session. We worked together. It was a nonpartisan special session. House Bill 1 was quickly passed. The legislation provided more than $212.7 million for eligible uses. But now, that was different pieces. Transportation got a piece that can only be used in transportation. Education through KDE got a piece that can only be used there. The part of that fund, which specifically helped counties and cities, utilities, and nonprofits with what we would call fiscal liquidity and funding the required FEMA matches. These are really tough challenges counties face when so much is wiped out of their tax base. And this helps them meet payroll, replace vehicles when they need it. It helps them with that large part they may have to pay to unlock more FEMA funding. That $65 million has been almost entirely expended. I had asked for $125 million for this portion of the fund. So we got 65, which was very helpful. But this portion running too low is something that we are going to need to replenish. The needs are still very significant. The counties that were impacted cannot thrive, maybe cannot survive without additional funding to the Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund for this portion. So at the very beginning of the next session of the General Assembly coming up, we will be recommending that we provide additional funding to this Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund, the portion that helps counties, cities, utilities, and nonprofits, and then we put an emergency clause on it to open it up immediately. We have a $300+ million rainy day fund. We have a more than $3 billion rainy day fund, which means that continuing to help rebuild after the rainiest of days is something that we should do, and we have the funding in cash right there to help. I'll be looking forward to working with the General Assembly on this. What it will mean is some requests from counties from now until then we will not be able to fulfill, but we will work hard with those counties to do everything we can to help to get those applications in and ready so we could process them as quickly as we can. Let me thank local leadership, both in the West and in the East. I got to be with all of them, virtually all of them, over the last 2 to 3 weeks. They've done an incredible job. Everybody's pushed party aside and has just lived for their neighbors and their communities. In the West, we're no longer building houses, we're building neighborhoods, all coming up at the same time. In the East, we're getting so close to getting the federal NEPA surveys done, which unlocked the $300 million of HUD funding. We've announced multiple high ground communities. Listen, there is hope. And going from houses to neighborhoods, we hope could start fall to winter. In the East, it'll depend, of course, on weather and building conditions, but we are really excited to get to that point. All right, some sad news this morning. My friend Frank Jones Jr. passed away. at 1:30 this morning. Frank was a leader in the thoroughbred industry. He was on our horse racing commission. He was a veteran who proudly served in the United States Air Force. He was also a commissioner of the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission. Over the past 31 years, Frank devoted himself to representing leaders within the horse industry. He had a focus on the integrity and growth of programs that supported backside employees, owners, trainers, and more. Frank made a huge difference. He was an award-winning leader committed to helping others within the essential Kentucky industry live better lives, and I was proud to call him a friend. He ran a company called Recreonics that employs a bunch of people in Louisville selling pool products all across the country and the world. Frank will be missed, and my prayers are with his family, his friends, and the entire thoroughbred industry. I've known Frank for a long time. We'll miss him. While the body is mortal, the soul is eternal, and I know we will see him again. And finally, I'm excited to recognize today's Team Kentucky AllStar, the team at the Breathitt County Public Library. Following last year's deadly flooding in eastern Kentucky, they went above and beyond to help their neighbors. From opening the library doors for Kentuckians to shelter, to staff helping folks research and find replacement documents like birth and marriage certificates so that they could complete their FEMA claims. This team made a difference. They even provided childcare and activities for kids while their parents and caregivers applied for aid. They offered free copies and faxes on important documents, notary services. They donated water and so much more. So it's understandable that this amazing team was named the inaugural recipient of an award created to honor this type of extraordinary commitment. The Library Journal honored the Breathitt County Public Library with the Library Journal and Gale's Libraries Defying the Odds Award. This team truly defied the odds, but more than that, they lived our faith and our values. They were there for their neighbors in their time of need. Congratulations to the team at the Breathitt County Public Library. They are our Team Kentucky All-Stars. And one correction, I believe when we were talking about general fund, I talked about the 10% income tax reduction. The one I signed takes place next year. The one that I vetoed, not because of the 10% income tax reduction, but because of sales tax increases, specifically one on background checks for nonprofits that try to keep our kids safe. Something I think should never cost more money because we should always step up to protect our kids. That is the one that generated the 10% decrease for this July. So I'm trying to be as absolutely factual as I can. All right, with that, we'll turn it over to our journalists in orders that they signed up. We'll start with Tom.
Okay, thank you very much, Governor. Public policy polling came out showing you your lead over your opponent in the race widening. Any comment?
We did see a poll this morning showing, I believe, an 8% lead in the race. I believe that people want a governor that talks about the things that impact them most: jobs, economic development, public safety, public education, infrastructure. Those are the things, healthcare, those are the things that parents worry about at night. I think what you've seen in this race is a difference between vision and division. While I'm trying to talk about a better life for our families and good jobs, my opponent is obsessed over kids and gender reassignment surgeries. I think the people of Kentucky want their governor's race to never go to the gutter, and they want it to be about those issues that they worry about each and every day. Sarah.
Speaking of the gender reassignment surgery, Human held a presser this morning talking about how he claimed that you had lied about that. And I was just wondering when you heard about the letter that has been circulating and if you had any comment on it.
I've been crystal clear. I do not support gender reassignment surgeries for minors, period. In fact, the Fairness Campaign had worked with the General Assembly trying to get them to simply pass a bill that outlawed that and left other medical decisions to parents. I would have signed a bill that solely prohibited gender reassignment surgeries for minors had it reached my desk. Now, every piece of information that had been provided to the governor's office from the Fairness Campaign and others from major medical associations and major medical providing groups were that they did not happen in Kentucky. That letter was new to me. though apparently it had been sent to somebody else months earlier, which raises questions on its own. But at the end of the day, I mean, how has this race gone here? I mean, Daniel Cameron's taken this race to the gutter in a way that I have never seen. I mean, right now, I think if you ask him about climate change, he'll say it's caused by children and gender reassignment surgeries. I mean, this race is supposed to be about the issues that impact our families the most. You know, is my job good enough to provide opportunities for my family? Can I afford to take my parents and my kids to a doctor when they're sick? I just don't think that this is what Kentuckians want to see. And the only person exposing our children to this type of information is Daniel Cameron, putting millions of dollars of commercials on TV every day so that the kids that they don't want to see this information see it. I mean, they should stop it. They should take it down. Carolina.
Governor, following up on this, just to clarify, in that letter, it says that the clinic did not perform any gender reassignment surgeries. However, they performed a small amount of non-genital gender reassignment surgeries. Were you ever aware of these non-genital?
No.
Okay.
The fact that we have to ask and answer these questions shows exactly where my opponent has taken this race. I mean, even going back to my last race against Governor Bevin, listen, I thought he took it to a place it shouldn't have gone, but he was still talking about pensions and economic development. We were still talking about public education. I mean, the fact that every single thing that comes out from a campaign from a person who wants to lead the entire state is obsessing over our kids' bodies is I mean, I believe we've reached the gross point. Let's talk about the other issues that impact the Commonwealth of Kentucky. All right, Gil McClanahan.
Okay, can you hear me, sir?
I got you.
Okay. I'm going to talk about another letter, switch topics here. 3 state senators have sent a letter to the U.S. Education Secretary, Miguel Cardona. Apparently, with the Safer Communities Act, they contend that the department has misinterpreted that law and now saying that they'll withhold federal funds to schools that have archery and hunting programs. In your opinion, is this correct? Is this the right thing to do?
I just received the letter, Gil, and I haven't had a chance to analyze it, but I support hunting. I support archery programs in our schools. We even have held national archery competitions. I believe they were in downtown Louisville one year and in other areas in other years. Those conventions bring in a lot of dollars. And so and again, I want to analyze this, if those senators are saying we're losing funding to those programs, I certainly support continued funding for those programs. But that letter just got put on my desk today. Joe Sonka, Courier-Journal.
Thank you. I have 2 questions for you related to Louisville. Wanted to get your reaction to the JCPS busing problems yesterday that have canceled school today and tomorrow. And also LMPD coming out and saying that there will be no further apparent investigations or discipline for officers who were involved in Department of Justice report incidents. Steve, you have a reaction to either of those?
Well, with regards to LMPD and the DOJ report, I would need to look back at those incidents and what type of discipline had been provided, at that time. That's a pretty long report. It goes from everything from certain stops to canine bites. What we did when we received that is both ask the Kentucky State Police and DOCJT, the Department of Criminal Justice Training, to review it, to look at their own policies, to compare their policies first, but then when necessary to update their policies. Again, it's important that we hold ourselves accountable, whether that's in government, in law enforcement, or others, when people cross the line. But of course, the type of discipline has to be within the guidelines of the organization and has to be appropriate for whatever the incident is. But Joe, I'd have to look one by one to give you anything further than that. The busing situation, I think everyone involved has said is not acceptable. The fact that it has prevented school, at least for a couple days, is a massive disruption. I encourage everyone to fix it as quickly as possible. When we have our kids on our school buses and others, listen, we have the responsibility to make sure they're safe and ultimately to get the job done. That's a requirement. Now, as governor, I don't run the Kentucky Department of Education. The legislature made that independent. I certainly don't run any specific school district. Those are superintendents hired by the local school boards. But as a parent, I'd be upset. And I think the superintendent has said that parents have every right to be upset. Now it's just critical that they move forward, that they get it right, that the kids are safe, that they can get to and from school in a reasonable amount of time. And I trust that all of the leaders will be working as fast as they can towards making that happen. All right. Thank you. We'll be back next week.